Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hypertrophy Odyssey. It is the third day of the week, aka the Spirit Bomb workout. I'm feeling very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, the downfall of the white boy. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because white boys, as we once knew them, aren't really a thing anymore. And well, of course they do still exist, of course. But the cultural shift and phenomena that they would basically push upon society, which you can see through the early 2000s, well, let's be honest, the early 90s to like the early 2010s was a cultural force, to say the least. You know, I can point to three things probably in this shelf right here or in this computer that were propagated because of white boys. Hell, I'm wearing a Chiodo's shirt and white boys, you know, and that's a different style of white boy that I'm talking about, but still nonetheless one that is crept in mind. When I'm talking about this, I'm talking about like Malcolm in the Middle white boys, you know, three like rusty, weird, kind of broke, but also loving family, but also like not loving family at the same time, broke white boys, middle suburbia, out of the middle bumfuck nowhere. We'll talk about their displacement and everything else that's going on with them, but it is an interesting dynamic, or at least the idea of who they once were is no longer really, I would say, culturally relevant or even around. You don't really see these types of white boys around necessarily, and it's somewhat sad, I think, in a certain sense, because they did a lot to push the cultures of a lot of different things forward, I think. And I think a lot of people don't want to make fun of the idea of like, oh, white people, they don't have any culture, when in reality they do push a lot into the forefront, no matter what the industry is. But that's kind of a different story for a different day. I do want to just give a shout out to those guys, because realistically without them, you know, that wouldn't have half the fucking music I listen to, and also as well many of the things that entertain me and things like that wouldn't be around. I still remember watching things like CKY, someone like Bam Margera. These are the types of people that I'm talking about when I say the white boy, the fall of the white boy. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that, probably talking about the influences and things that they've come around to, and what their lack of being around has kind of caused, and how today it's kind of a mishmash of stuff and just a gelatinous blob of people that kind of embody the same spirit as such white boys, but aren't necessarily white, but also that's not necessarily a detriment towards them or anybody involved. It's more of a, damn, what happened? A post-mortem, if you will, as to a cultural phenomena that is no longer there. So with that being said, I will see you about the race. All right, so started this day off with shoulder shrugs, which were pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. The death of the white boy. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because this is something I noticed quite a bit nowadays. But the thing is, the prominence and level of prevalence that they had in popular culture is no longer felt. I think most people understand this inherently when it comes to this. When you look at something like the show like Malcolm in the Middle, people like this don't really exist anymore. There's not a really weird like lower middle class group of white boys that are just kind of doing a bunch of random shit, you know what I mean, that are just kind of hoodlums. That just doesn't exist anymore. Most of the time they've been just kind of sidelined and kind of thrown up by the wayside, or even worse, and this is what I think is one of the issues with today's society, is that drugs have kind of taken over a lot of these spaces, where it made it so that these types of people that would explore just random shit or caused cultural shifts in realities or just the popular culture have made it so that they've gone by the wayside. It made it so that technically we don't want to advertise for them. And I think that that's kind of made it so that there's a weird world where they have gotten the cultural shift from what the early to mid to late 2000s were, where there was the genesis of many things such as different types of music, as well as popular cultural icons, as well as video games and movies and all this other stuff going all in together to become what is essentially possibly still regarded as some of the best stuff ever made, but also at the same time, of course, these things are no longer there. People are trying to copy and paste everything over and over again from this decade span just to try to get some type of juice out of these things. You don't have to go that far to see all of this. Something, for example, like a Halo, even something that is popularized with Mountain Dew and Doritos type of idea of a person, a cultural figure, as being tried again and again. A Spider-Man just came out, which again tried again and again to be the original that came out in the early to mid 2000s. And it's kind of crazy that we are trying to copy and paste these things without actually trying to basically advertise to these types of people that technically just don't exist anymore. There's just a lack of them nowadays. A lot of people will look at the elder statesmen like an old Bam Margera and look at them and be like, damn, people like this don't exist anymore. They just don't. And it's very weird to say that, because a lot of things nowadays, you gotta get a weird subsection of certain people. And I do think that there are outside influences to this. There is that one famous Billy Corgan video where he talks about
the belief that the FBI or some other powers that be above are the types that made it so that rock and roll would lose its ever presence. And I can believe it. I mean, they were probably realistically scared of all of the people that were listening to shit like Limp Bizkit and the sort, and made it so let's cut the bullshit. And then that's how bands like Nickelback came to popularity, and then the backlash from Nickelback came to popularity. But let's just say that people out in the powerful spheres of the world can have major influences upon certain types of people and or the entire culture in and of itself. So thus maybe they only got popular in order for there to be a backlash against certain types of music like that. But maybe somebody set that up in order to make it so that the entirety of the rock industry was just collapsed.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Get everything in, thankfully. But anyway, back to the main subject matter at hand. The downfall of the white boy. So the main reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this was on my list for a while, and it was something that is a very interesting thing just to kind of think about. Generally speaking, the cultural impact that these people have had were probably legendary. We feel still the ripples of these types of things to this day. Unfortunately, they have gone by the wayside as many other groups have decided to try to take their place and have done absolutely nothing for culture and have probably made it 10 times worse in all facets. Because obviously people would like to think that, yes, although there are certain things that you may or may not add to society that could be beneficial to certain groups or another, once you start niching down into certain things, you are making it so that not everybody can enjoy what you're enjoying here, and making it so that everything is worse for it, you know, and then trying to force people into whatever you like causes a lot of issues, rather than having just a random group of people making stuff that they enjoy and that's it, and then if you like it, cool, if you don't, you don't, there you go. That makes it a lot easier to, you know, get with the program, as so they say. It's very interesting to at least look at all of this and see that this type of person is not really as ubiquitous as it once was, and it's very unfortunate in a certain sense because, you know, obviously cultures have shifted, things have changed and stuff like that. I'm not going to say that it's the end all be all, but still it is something that you can't even, like, there is a level of shame almost brought to these people by just existing, and that's very unfortunate because why? You know, I mean, they're just white dudes trying to do their own thing. They still, and for those that are doing their own thing and still existing, good job on you, because realistically the entire society, or at least mainstream society, because of course it's mainstream society, wants you not doing anything, and you can see the degradation of things. I mean, for the love of God, Michael Jackson just topped the charts again in 2026. He passed away like more than 20 years ago at this point. And there's nothing wrong with the power of Michael Jackson and how popular he was and still is, and you know, his songs are truly timeless. But the thing is, it really speaks to the modern artist that they are competing with somebody who passed away about 20 years ago, give or take. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but still, that is insane type of thing, to the point where I don't know if any modern artist is even going to come close to competing with the current artists, and it's just going to keep leapfrogging, it seems like that. Something from the past is just going to keep going on the present, because the present is so shit culturally wise that nobody can even break through. And I think that we're going to probably end up in a place where we niche down so much that each thing is going to be for a specific group or another, and or separated. You know, it's like we are starting to get to the point now where cultures or eclectic things, or just generally how people hang out, are becoming LEDs on a light board, you know? So each individualized LED is is like one light of a giant thing, but that one light is completely separate from all of each other if you look ever so closely, like a pixel on a screen. So I think that that's what's going to happen, and it's a very unfortunate that it happened, a dimming like this happened to the white boy, as they did a good job on a lot of stuff, and I think that they were a good cultural force, and hopefully they're brought back, you know, it's just maybe musically wise, you know, culturally wise, just doing crazy dumb shit, you know, and just recording it. It's very hard to find that type of stuff, and when you do, there's always a little tinge of like, damn, what could have been, in a certain sense, but it is what it is. But with that being said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one was kind of random, but one that is an interesting one, just something that doesn't exist anymore. So please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Keep it heavy, stay safe out there, stay warm, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!